The house on Sycamore Street. I need to tell someone about what happened on Halloween night, 2019. The police report says it was a gas leak explosion, but that's not what really happened at 1247 Sycamore Street. I know because I was there when it started. My name is David Kowalski, and I was chaperoning my 8-year-old daughter Emma and her friend Lily for trick-or-treating that night. We'd been walking through the Brookside neighborhood for about an hour, hitting all the houses with good decorations and full-size candy bars. Emma was dressed as a vampire, complete with plastic fangs and a cape that kept getting caught on things. Lily had chosen to be a witch, with a pointed hat that was too big for her head. They were having the time of their lives, running from house to house, with their pillowcases getting heavier with each stop. The houses on Sycamore Street were known for going all out on Halloween. Every year, families would compete to see who could create the most elaborate displays. Fake graveyards, animatronic skeletons, fog machines, the whole 9 yards. That's why we were surprised when we reached 1247 Sycamore and found it completely dark. The house sat back from the street, separated by a long, overgrown lawn that hadn't been mowed in months. The paint was peeling from the siding, and several windows were boarded up with plywood. A for sale sign hung crooked in the front yard, so faded you could barely read the realtor's name. "That house looks spooky," Emma said, pointing at the dark windows. "Maybe they're just pretending to be abandoned for Halloween." "No, sweetheart," I told her. "That house has been empty for years. The people who lived there moved away a long time ago." But as we walked past, Lily grabbed my arm. "Mr. Kowalski, look at the porch." I looked where she was pointing, and my stomach dropped. Sitting on the front steps of the abandoned house was a large bowl filled with candy. The porch light was off, but in the glow of the street lamp, I could see it was one of those big plastic Halloween bowls shaped like a jack-o'-lantern. "Someone left candy out," Emma said excitedly. "Can we go get some?" I should have said no. Everything about the situation felt wrong. The dark house, the untended lawn, the way the shadows seemed to move strangely around the porch. But the girls were already heading up the cracked sidewalk, and I didn't want to seem paranoid. "Stay close to me," I called after them, following reluctantly. As we got closer to the house, I noticed more details that made my skin crawl. The windows weren't just boarded up. They were boarded up from the inside, with the plywood nailed over the glass from within the house. The front door was slightly ajar, revealing nothing but darkness beyond. And the candy bowl wasn't just sitting on the steps. It was positioned perfectly in the center of the porch, as if someone had placed it there specifically for trick-or-treaters. "Girls, wait," I said, but they were already climbing the porch steps. The wooden boards creaked under their weight, and I heard what sounded like movement from inside the house, a soft shuffling like someone walking around in slippers. "Hello," I called out. "Is anyone home?" No answer, but the shuffling sound continued. Emma reached the candy bowl first. It was filled with full-size chocolate bars, the expensive kind that only the best houses handed out. She looked back at me with wide eyes. "Dad, there's so much good stuff in here." "Just take one piece each and let's go," I said, every instinct telling me to get my daughter away from this place. But as Emma reached into the bowl, the front door creaked open wider. "Take as much as you want," said a voice from inside the house. "I bought it especially for trick-or-treaters." The voice was that of an elderly woman, but there was something off about it, a strange hollow quality, like she was speaking from the bottom of a well. "Thank you," Emma called back politely, grabbing a handful of candy bars. "Your house looks really scary. Is it decorated for Halloween?" There was a long pause before the voice answered. "Oh yes, dear. Everything here is decorated for Halloween. Would you like to see inside?" That's when I stepped forward. "Thank you, but we need to keep moving. Say thank you to the nice lady girls." "Thank you," Emma and Lily chorused, stuffing candy into their bags. But as we turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of movement in one of the windows, a pale face peering out through a gap in the boarded-up glass. The face was watching us, and even from a distance, I could see it was smiling. We were halfway down the front walk when Emma stopped. "Dad, I dropped my vampire cape." I looked back at the porch and saw her black cape lying crumpled near the candy bowl. "Leave it," I said. "We can get you another one." "But I love that cape. It's my favorite part of the costume." Before I could stop her, Emma was running back up the porch steps. The front door was still open. that same slice of darkness beckoning from within. Emma, no! I shouted, but she was already reaching for her cape. That's when the woman inside the house spoke again, and this time I could hear her clearly. Why don't you come inside, dear? I have so many more treats to show you. Emma paused, her hand inches from the cape. What kind of treats? All kinds, candy, cookies, toys. I've been saving them for years, just waiting for the right children to visit. I ran up the porch steps, but as I reached for Emma, she stepped toward the open door. Just for a minute, Dad. She says she has cookies. Emma, get away from there. I grabbed her arm, but she was already peering into the darkness beyond the door. What I saw in that moment still haunts me. The interior of the house wasn't abandoned. It was decorated for Halloween, but not with store-bought decorations. The walls were covered with what looked like children's drawings, crayon sketches of houses, families, stick figures holding hands. But the drawings were old, faded, and the paper was yellowed with age. And there were photographs, dozens of them, tacked to the walls and scattered across the floor. Black and white pictures of children in Halloween costumes, all of them smiling at the camera. In the center of the room stood an elderly woman in a faded house dress. Her hair was white and stringy, and her skin had a waxy, translucent quality. She was smiling at Emma with teeth that were too white, too perfect. Come in, dear, she said, extending a hand toward my daughter. I've been waiting so long for you to visit. That's when I noticed the other children. They were standing in the shadows behind the woman, partially hidden by the darkness. 3 or 4 kids in Halloween costumes that looked decades out of style. Old-fashioned ghost sheets, homemade pirate outfits, witches with crooked hats. They were all staring at Emma with wide, unblinking eyes. Dad, Emma whispered, those kids look funny. The children in the shadows began to move forward, their movements jerky and unnatural, like marionettes being pulled by invisible strings. As they got closer to the light, I could see their faces more clearly. They were pale, too pale, with dark circles under their eyes and lips that were almost blue. Their Halloween costumes were dirty and torn, as if they'd been wearing them for years. Play with us, one of them said in a voice like rustling leaves. We've been waiting for new friends. It's so lonely here, said another. Stay and play with us forever. I yanked Emma backward, away from the door, but the old woman was already moving toward us. Her smile never wavered, but I could see something predatory in her eyes. Don't be rude, she said, her voice taking on a sharp edge. The children just want to play. They've been so good, waiting all these years. Emma, run, I shouted, pushing her toward the porch steps. But as we turned to flee, I saw that Lily was gone. She'd been standing right behind us, but now there was no sign of her anywhere. Lily, Emma called out. Where did you go? From inside the house came a child's giggle. Lily's giggle. I'm in here. This lady has the best Halloween decorations ever. I looked back through the open door and saw Lily standing with the other children, her witch hat askew and a vacant smile on her face. She was holding hands with a boy in a pirate costume, and they were both staring at Emma with that same unblinking gaze. Lily, come out here right now, I shouted. But Lily just giggled again. Come play with us, Emma. We're going to have so much fun. The old woman stepped onto the porch, and I could smell her now, a sickly, sweet odor like flowers left too long in water. The children are playing together, she said. Isn't that nice? They haven't had new friends in such a long time. Give me back Lily, I demanded. But even as I said it, I could see more children appearing in the shadows behind her. Dozens of them, all in Halloween costumes from different eras, all with that same pale, empty expression. She's not going anywhere, the woman said, and her voice was changing, becoming deeper, more guttural. None of them are going anywhere. They're all mine now. That's when I understood what I was looking at. The photographs on the walls, the children's drawings, the decades of Halloween decorations. This woman had been collecting trick-or-treaters for years, maybe decades. Every Halloween, she'd lure children into her house with promises of candy and treats, and they'd never come back out. Emma, we're leaving, now. I grabbed my daughter's hand and pulled her down the porch steps, but she was fighting me. We can't leave Lily, she cried. Dad, we can't leave her. Behind us, I could hear the old woman laughing, and the sound was horrible, like breaking glass mixed with the crying of children. She can visit her friend anytime she wants, the woman called after us. The door's always open. I carried Emma to the street, both of us looking back at the house. Lily was standing in the doorway now, waving at us with that same vacant smile. The other children were crowded behind her, their faces pale in the darkness. Bye, Emma, Lily called out. Come back and play with us. I called 911 from my cell phone, but when the police arrived, they found the house empty. No old woman, no children, no Halloween decorations. The interior was dusty and abandoned, with no sign that anyone had been there in years. The only evidence of what had happened was Lily's absence. Her parents called in a missing child report, and the investigation lasted for months. Search teams combed the neighborhood, volunteers posted flyers, but Lily was never found. The official story was that she'd wandered off during trick-or-treating and gotten lost. Maybe she'd fallen into a storm drain or been picked up by a stranger. The police had no leads, no suspects, no explanation for how a 7-year-old girl could simply vanish from a residential neighborhood. But I knew where she was. The house on Sycamore Street sold 3 weeks later. The new owners were a young couple who planned to renovate the property. They said they'd gotten a great deal because the house had been on the market for so long. I tried to warn them. I called the realtor, sent letters to the new owners, even showed up at their door to tell them what had happened. But no one believed me. They thought I was traumatized by losing Lily and creating elaborate fantasies to cope with the guilt. The renovations began in December. The new owners gutted the interior, tore out the old wallpaper, and refinished the floors. They found nothing unusual. No signs of the children I'd seen, no evidence of the old woman who lived there. But on Christmas Eve, the house burned down. The fire started in the middle of the night, and by the time the fire department arrived, the entire structure was engulfed in flames. The investigators ruled it an electrical fire, but the new owners swore they'd had the wiring completely redone. Standing in the crowd of neighbors watching the fire, I thought I saw faces in the flames. Pale, childlike faces that seemed to be screaming. The smoke carried the sound of children crying, and I swear I heard Lily's voice calling out for help. The lot where 1247 Sycamore Street once stood is still empty. The insurance company paid out the claim, but the new owners never rebuilt. They sold the land to the city, and now it's just an overgrown lot with a no trespassing sign. But every Halloween, I drive past that empty lot and I see them. Children in Halloween costumes standing in the tall grass where the house used to be. They're always there, waiting for trick-or-treaters to walk by. Sometimes I see Lily among them, still wearing her witch hat, still smiling that vacant smile. And sometimes, when the wind is just right, I can hear that old woman's voice calling out from the empty lot. The door's always open. Come play with us. I've never told Emma what really happened that night. She's 13 now, and she thinks Lily just moved away with her family. But she refuses to go trick-or-treating anymore, and she won't walk past empty houses after dark. I think somehow she remembers. If you're ever out on Halloween night and you see a house that looks abandoned but has candy sitting on the porch, don't let your kids go near it. Some treats aren't worth the price you pay for them. And if you hear children's voices calling out from empty lots, inviting you to come and play, just keep walking. Some games never end, and some children never get to go home.